Hi guys, what's the tea? So, today I feel like a queen, so I'm gonna wear this crown. Actually, I got it for some special occasion, but I just got it in, so I'm so excited. That's why I'm wearing it. Anyway, so today's What's the Tea is very interesting. I thought, when I picked it, I thought, okay, before I even get into today's message, I need to put a disclaimer out there, seriously. Let me say this because I have been doing my videos, my blogs, my tarot taps, all of this for years. I am talking about like a decade, that long. Okay. And over the years, I've had people get mad. They've blamed me. They've hated me. And they've acted like I'm the whole reason that their life is falling apart. I still have people that have me blocked because it's all my fault. All because of something I wrote or something I said or something that I was putting out there, the messages that I was putting out there. So I've had people say I've ruined their relationship. Me, I have all that power. I ruined their marriage. Seriously. I didn't take no vows with them. I caused problems in their home. Their wife was leaving. Something I said made their wife want to open her eyes. No. Let's stop right there. We do not kill the messenger because the message hits a nerve. Okay? If something I say makes you immediately think that I'm talking about you or somebody you know or somebody you love or somebody you've been making excuses for, that is not really a me problem. That is where maybe you need to stop and ask yourself why this shit fits so well in the first place. Because the issue is not what I'm saying, okay? I picked these cards. There's a higher energy that's telling me what to talk about every day, all right? The issue is something in you that recognized something, okay? And that's what people do not like. Seriously. People are real comfortable ignoring patterns until somebody names them out loud. Then suddenly, I'm too much, I'm starting stuff, or I'm causing the problems. No, I'm not causing the problems, okay? I'm pointing at the problem. If me describing a pattern makes your whole spirit sit up straight, then maybe the message is not attacking you. Maybe it's exposing something. And yes, today I'm talking, I had to say it because today I'm talking about somebody who ain't shit. Somebody who ain't shit. So, if you have somebody in your life who is not carrying their weight, not showing up right, living off of other people's effort, creating confusion, taking more than they give, disrespecting peace, and still expecting access, then yes, this is probably going to hit. And if you are the one doing that, if you're watching this and you are the one doing it, you're probably not really going to like me today. I'll be honest. And that's okay. Your recognition is not my fault. Your guilt is not my fault either. And your anger at hearing the truth does not suddenly make the truth less true. So, that disclaimer's out there, right out there in the front. If this feels personal, before you get mad at me, Ask yourself why. If it sounds familiar, before you blame me, ask yourself why. If it feels like I'm talking about somebody you love, defend, or put up with, before you shoot the messenger, ask yourself, why does this message hit? You know, sometimes people don't hate the message because it's wrong. They hate it because it landed. So, let's get to this tea. Some people do not come into your life to build, protect, love, or grow. They come to consume. And if we are really being honest, you have to stop and ask, what if they actually give in? Like, really given. Not talked about. Not hinted at. Not almost done. What have they truly poured back in a meaningful, lasting, selfless way? Because some people, they just take. They take warmth from your fire while bringing no freaking wood of their own. Oh, but they love that fire, don't they? They love the warmth of it. And this is where people get really confused. Because, you know, they will point to the smallest little thing and use it as proof that somebody is trying. Oh, he or she paid for gas. They bought a meal here and there. Oh, he or she showed up for a moment. They do one human thing, and now suddenly people want to build a whole character reference out of crumbs. No. Common decency is not a sacrifice. Bare minimum is not effort. An occasional convenience, that's not love. I'm not saying people do not buy gas sometimes or pay for a meal here and there. Okay? That is basic. That is common decency. That is entry level human behavior. That is not proof of character. It is not some grand showing. This is not evidence that someone is truly pouring into another person's life. Just because somebody throws out a little something now and then, it does not truly mean that they are investing in anybody in a real way. Real giving looks different. Real giving, it has consistency. It has intention. It costs something. It takes thought, care, effort, accountability, and the willingness to not just show up when it's easy, not just when it benefits them, but when somebody actually needs them. So the real question is not, did they do one or two nice things? The real question is, where is their energy actually going? What are they really investing in? What benefits most or who from their time, their attention, their effort, their discipline, their sacrifice? Because that right there is going to tell you the truth a lot quicker than any mouth will. There are people who pour themselves out for people they love. There are. They work. They sacrifice. They stretch. They inconvenience themselves. They think ahead. They carry weight. They do what needs to be done. Because real love, it doesn't just talk. Real love, it contributes. Real love understands responsibility. Real love does not want applause for being halfway decent. And then there are people whose whole life is centered around themselves, their comfort, their wants, their appetites, their ego, their image, their pleasure, their convenience. And when a person lives like that, everybody around them ends up surviving on leftovers, on excuses, on waiting, on hoping, on maybe this time. While that person keeps making themselves the center of every story. That is why selfishness gets mistaken for trying. Because selfish people, they often do just enough to keep access. And just enough to keep the door cracked. Just enough to keep from being fully called what they are. Just enough to keep people confused. Trying is visible. Trying creates change. Trying carries weight. Trying, it shows up in patterns. And if the pattern is still selfishness, avoidance, inconsistency, and taking more than they give, then no, they are not trying in any meaningful way. They are maintaining access on a clearance rack budget. Some people are not givers who fell on hard times. Some people are takers who learned how to perform just enough decency to keep getting invited back in. And that right there, it ain't shit behavior. Ain't shit behavior is not just someone making mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all fall short. We all have wounds and blind spots and pride and fear and mess. But this is different. This is a pattern. It is when somebody keeps showing you over and over that they are comfortable benefiting from your love while disrespecting your peace. They want the title, the access, the body, the home, the loyalty, the second chance, the family energy, the comfort, the forgiveness. But they do not want the responsibility, the maturity, the discipline, the truth, the sacrifice, or the accountability that comes with any of it. That is a user. That is a drainer. That is a person who wants to eat from a table that they never helped set. And they still complain about the seasoning. For real? Like, you think you have something to say? And let me say this real clear. This ain't shit behavior, oh boy, does it often wear a charm. Sometimes it laughs a lot, tries to be funny, a little comedian. Sometimes it's sweet talks. And sometimes it pops in just enough to confuse people. Like, huh? Sometimes it acts helpful for 5 minutes and wants that 5 minutes to count as a whole personality. Sometimes it hides behind, I'm trying. Sometimes it hides behind stress, rough childhoods, bad timing, confusion, depression, or just, you don't understand me. But at some point, grown is grown. Grown is grown. And if we are really gonna go there, then let's go there. A lot of behavior like this, it just doesn't come out of nowhere. Sometimes what you're looking at is a person who learned early that someone else would carry what they refused to carry. Someone else would clean it up. Someone else would explain it away. Someone else would cushion the consequences. Someone else would make sure the fall never fully hit. And that is where under-functioning starts becoming an identity. Because when someone else has been allowed for too long to do less, give less, carry less, and still keep getting rescued, excused, included, forgiven, accommodated, and taken care of, it starts shaping how they see themselves. They stop seeing their behavior as a problem. They start building their identity around being the one who struggles, the one who has a hard time, the one who needs understanding. Oh, poor. The one who always has a reason why they cannot quite show up all the way they're supposed to. And yes, life is hard and people go through things. And yes, people do have wounds. I will say that. I have them too. We all have them. But there is a difference between somebody going through something and somebody turning chronic irresponsibility into their personality. That is where it gets dangerous. Because once under-functioning becomes identity, they do not just avoid responsibility. They defend the version of themselves. That version, they will defend it. They get used to other people adjusting around them. They get used to being accommodated. And they get used to other people picking up the slack, filling in the gap, lowering the bar, softening the truth, and calling it love. So the minute anybody expects more from them, suddenly they're being attacked. Oh, poor me. Poor me. The minute anybody holds a mirror up to them, oh, all of a sudden now they're being mistreated because people are showing you who you are. The minute consequence shows up, somehow they are the victim. No. People are just tired. And let's talk about that, because this is another part that people miss. When somebody is used to other people adjusting around them, picking up the slack for them, covering what they did not do, handling what they dropped, fixing what they ignored, that does not mean they are functioning. It just means other people are. That's a huge difference. Sometimes there is a whole freaking symphony of people making sure responsibilities get handled behind the scenes. Somebody is paying this. Somebody is covering that. Somebody is smoothing this over. Somebody is making sure the lights stay on, the mess stays quieter, the consequences don't hit too hard, and the whole thing still looks halfway decent from the outside. And then the person standing in the middle of all that wants to act like they handled it? No, they did not. They were near the effort. They benefited from the effort. Boy, did they enjoy the outcome of the effort. But that does not mean the effort was theirs. That is not responsibility. That is borrowed functioning. That is standing under someone else's umbrella talking about, look, I stayed dry. Well, yeah, but whose umbrella is it? Whose umbrella was it? And that's what makes things so unfair. It's not fair for the people constantly picking up the slack. It's not fair to the people paying for what they did not create. It's not fair to the people carrying stress that does not belong to them. And then it is definitely not right for somebody to get real comfortable living off other people's effort while still wanting credit, access, respect, and control. That is a huge problem. Because once somebody gets used to a whole support system cushioning their irresponsibility, they start confusing being backed up and being capable. They start confusing being saved with being successful. And they start confusing other people's sacrifice with their own maturity. And those are not the same thing. And just because something got paid does not mean they paid it. Just because something gets handled does not mean they handled it. And just because a problem did not explode does not mean they solved it. It just may mean that there were enough people around to keep their lack from being fully exposed. And sooner or later, everybody gets tired. I mean, they get fed up. They get drained. They get resentful. Because carrying your own life, it's already hard enough for all of us. Carrying another grown person who refuses to carry themselves, it's going to wear people all the way freaking down. And what under-functioners do not understand is that they start mistaking everybody else's exhaustion for stability. They think, well, everything's still fine. No. Everybody is being held together with prayers, duct tape, and everybody else's bank account. That is not strength. That is dependence dressed up as capability. And yeah, sometimes families, they do help create this mess without meaning to. Sometimes parents keep rescuing, cushioning, fixing, defending, minimizing, and making excuses. And they do not realize they are helping build the very monster that they are later confused by. You know, love without boundaries, it can turn into sabotage. And protection without accountability, oh, that can become poison. You know, I'm speaking as a parent because I'm a parent. A parent may think they are helping, but if they are always intercepting consequences, they may be training dependence, entitlement, and emotional laziness. Thank God I didn't do that. But it could happen. It could. This does not mean every struggling person, you know, had bad parents. I mean, it doesn't mean every parent meant harm. I mean, patterns matter though. And that's why I'm going there. Because that's probably like one of the most important crowns I wear is being a parent. So I want to make sure that my family sees these patterns and makes good choices. What gets rewarded gets repeated. What gets excused grows. And what never meets consequence rarely meets transformation. So when people ask, where did this kind of monster get created? Sometimes the answer is in a 1,000 small moments where reality was softened, standards were lowered, and effort was optional. And rescuing got confused with raising. Let's not do this to our children because we don't need more of these in the world. We don't. So if you're a parent, this is for you. That matters with this world, with the children around us. Children are always watching. Children watch. They watch who carries the weight. They watch who gets away with what. They watch whether words match actions. And they're watching whether love means honesty, responsibility, sacrifice, protection, and peace. Or whether love means chaos, excuses, confusion, and one selfish person getting chance after chance while everybody else pays the price. Children learn what adulthood looks like by living near it. They learn what relationships feel like by watching the emotional weather in the home. And they learn whether responsibility is normal or optional. They learn whether consistency matters. They learn whether truth matters. And they learn whether performance is enough. And that is why ain't shit behavior is not some cute little flaw to shrug off. It teaches. It spreads. It leaves fingerprints. It tells everybody in the room what is acceptable. Because somebody who truly cares will care about the impact they're making. Somebody who truly loves you will not keep bleeding all over the places you are trying to clean up. Somebody with integrity does not keep testing how much hurt you will tolerate before you finally wake up. And that is the part people don't want to say. Ain't shit behavior survives on tolerance. It survives because someone keeps opening the door. It survives because somebody keeps mistaking potential for character. And it survives because somebody keeps loving the fantasy more than the facts. And facts are stubborn. They keep showing up. They keep knocking. They keep saying, so are we ready now? Are we still doing delusion aerobics? Because the truth is not hidden. I mean, not really. Not when you stop listening to words and start studying patterns. Who shows up when it only benefits them? Who disappears when responsibility enters the room? Who wants to be seen as a good person without doing the labor of being one? And who creates instability and then acts shocked that nobody feels safe? Who keeps handing out confusion and calling it love? This is ain't shit behavior. Psychologically, a lot of these people are not operating from real strength. They operate from avoidance. They operate from entitlement, from emotional immaturity, from the need to keep control without ever being accountable. They want the upper hand, but not the burden. They want closeness, but not honesty. And they want forgiveness, but not change. And underneath all that, a lot of the time is a fragile structure. A person who never built real discipline. A person who never learned frustration tolerance. A person who never developed the muscle for sacrifice, for repair, for consistency. A person who learned that charm can replace character. Excuses can replace growth, and confusion can keep access longer than contribution ever could. That is not power. That is weakness wearing borrowed cologne. And the hardest part is this kind of behavior, it can really make good people question themselves. It can make strong women over-explain. And it can make nurturing people over-give. And it can make families tense and homes very heavy. It can make children absorb confusion they never even asked for. And it can make everybody around the dysfunction start walking on eggshells while the person causing it acts inconvenienced by being noticed. Because this kind of behavior, it never affects just one person. It spills, it leaks, it stains, it shifts the whole energy of a room. And some of y'all know exactly what I mean. The second that person enters, peace is gone. Joy gets quieter, and confusion, it gets real loud. Everybody feels the static in the air. Like the room itself just sighed and said, here it is again. Because truth has frequency. It does. And so does dysfunction. So today's tea is this. Stop begging broken character to behave like integrity. Stop auditioning for the role of the one who finally changes them. Stop handing sacred access to people who keep proving they are careless with sacred things. And stop calling it complicated when the pattern is actually very clear. Stop decorating red flags and calling them misunderstandings. Some people are not misunderstood. Some people are exactly what they have repeatedly shown themselves to be. And saying that, it does not make you bitter. It makes you awake. There comes a point where discernment has to get louder than hope. There comes a point where your self-respect has to rise up and say, no more. And there comes a point where the tea is not hot because it's gossip,